That's why I can't see you.
It's probably a better view.
All right, I'm ready.
Well, super excited. Today is obviously, in the back half we're at 16, practice 16, so we're only allowed 25 really. So I think everybody kind of thinks that you're still in fall camp, but we're 9 days, 9 practices away from being at the end of our practice allotment. There's some days that we got to take off by NCAA rules, like today is a full padded practice. Tomorrow I have to give them the entire day off. We can't touch them, we can't meet with them, we can't speak to them, we can't do anything. They can come over and get treatments and some soft tissue, but we can't touch them. So there's a lot of other things. So Wednesday night will be our mock game. The day after that, we can meet with them in the building for 2 hours, but we can't take them out on the field. So there's a lot of things we got to work through. But so this is kind of one of the last full-scale practices that won't be scrimmage, but a pretty physical practice out there today. So got a lot of our guys back. You see a couple guys in green jerseys. That just means they're limited from contact. They're full go. We're just trying to protect them a little bit from just this last half a week before we get into full game mode prep. So with that being said, I thought Wednesday night scrimmage was really good. Had a lot of really productive things, good learning tape, and really not just offense, defense, but we're finding out who our core players are on special teams. Within the special teams world, having some good battles at kicker, punter, and snapper. So some good stuff working out there, and our guys are really excited to work. So with that, open up for questions.
But I know you do have a developmental period every time, and a guy like Kevin Wigginson mentioned that pays off a lot.
Yeah.
It seems like guys are ready. What is the value of that, and why is that so important?
So last night for the team, I had Trent Harris and Byron Bell, two of our young coaches, are on the building. Both those guys played in the NFL. Trent Harris was a Devo player for us when I was in the Patriots, and he kind of told how his first year with New England, he went through 22 weeks. Never made a game rep on the field and got a Super Bowl ring that means everything to him. And he talked about Whitney Merciless was one of the first players that he had to emulate against the Patriots, against the tackle. And that was on the Devo squad. Then when we played in Super Bowl that year, he emulated Aaron Darnold, right? And talked about 2 days before the Super Bowl how the O-line kept him out there after practice for 45 minutes just working Aaron Donald moves on them, and then in that game, Aaron Donald had 1 tackle, right? And he talked to pride in that game being relayed in the way that he, worked those Devo periods. The next year, he got an opportunity to play for the Miami Dolphins because Brian Flores saw him do that at New England, and then he used that same Whitney Merciless move to have a sack against Tom Brady against New England, and he talked about that was learned during Devo. B. Bell talked about it in the NFL. So what I want those guys to learn, Devo means it's not for young guys, old guys. It's for guys that need to continue to develop, right? So with Josh Kreutz out here for the next couple days we've been really working a lot of our 2 and 3 centers. So for them to get the calls, the logistics, the communication has really, really been invaluable. I learned it at that next level, right? I know when Jimmy Garoppolo went from New England to San Fran, came in and kind of played seamlessly for a guy that hadn't had many reps, but he had over 1,500 reps while he was with New England in those basic or those Devo reps. After practice that really didn't count in full game scrimmages, and it really helped.
Can you give kind of an overview of the guys who were selected for captain? Obviously that's a team selection, but just the leadership you've seen from those guys. Yeah,
first off, was glad to see a lot of votes. Those 6 guys, 3 on both sides of the ball. Specialists got some votes. Lane Hansen got some votes. Also, Hugh got some votes because those guys have been around a while. But the majority of those votes, those 3 guys, offensively, defensively, ran away with the votes on both sides of the ball. And then we have a crossover vote, so our defense players vote for offense and vice versa. So it kind of showed me when those same guys showed up on crossover votes how much they're respected within the team. But offensively, I think, just because of his voice, Josh Kreutz is, going into a multi-year starter now. Even this morning in a team meeting, he knew the answer right away when I asked on a defensive front he'd never seen before, right? We were doing a little bit of KU prep these next couple days, and obviously it just made a statement to me about his voice. Tanner Arkin, even though he's a transfer, he's been in here 2 years contributing. Guys see him in that role. And then Pat Bryant, I don't know if anybody's grown as much in our program over the last year as him. He's similar skill set wise to Casey, just his growth as a receiver, but also leadership wise in that room to have Casey and Isaiah pop out and Pat join in. Defensively, I wasn't really surprised with Dylan Rosiak getting voted, right? He was the lead vote getter. Just, again, he's the voice out there. And the next highest guy was Miles and Seth. They're literally within a vote of each other. And it just shows me how much respect those 2 guys have. And then again, I think Miles was the lead vote getter on the flip side. So offensively, more guys voted for Miles than anybody else. his crossover value is huge. But then, on the defense side, Briggs, T-Raw, especially those two guys, leadership. On the offensive side, I think Luka in particular, and then Aiden Lawfer in the running back room, those guys got a lot of votes. So they may not be captains, but they carry a lot of weight.
We've talked to you a lot about Dennis and T-Ron and Alex, but you got a large pool of guys kind of, I'd say, behind them,
yeah.
But also in that room. Like, what have you seen from that? Like, younger at Jeremiah?
Well, first, one guy that's in his 7th year, Zeke, right? Like, his growth from last spring to this fall is really, he just played his best football Wednesday night. His ability to understand that position, convert, although it's similar to an edge player on the outside back room, it's different, right? So it's a little more Johnny-ish to defensive end type situations. Keith, he has some similar skill sets as Keith, right, athletically. So there's that. Pat Farrell has been a really nice surprise. I think even a year ago, didn't see what we're seeing now and the value of that. Briggs and I would say even inside, there's been some flash out of guys like Eddie Turk, Biggs in particular, and then also, there's been some other guys that have flashed here and there. But those 4 guys, I mean, you talk about Briggs and Bray, Zeke Holmes and Pat Farrell, I think they're going to handle the majority of that work. And then inside, we're still looking for someone who gives us a lot of value in that backup nose role.
You mentioned Josh answering the question here. What impact have you seen from him, even if he's not on the field right now?
Josh Kreutz?
Yeah.
Yeah, first, funny story. So he had a procedure done, right? And that day he was in and out, and I was going to my house. Did I tell this story? I didn't tell the story. So I was driving to my house. I've been meaning to call him all day. It's like a little before 11, and I'm like, I'm not going to call and wake him up. Like, I don't want to do that, right? And I literally got in, said some things to my wife, took the dogs out, all that stuff. I'm laying down in my bed, and I see a text from Josh, and it said, "Hey, do I have my green jersey tomorrow?" Right? And I'm like, I literally started laughing. So I called him. I said, "Bro, how you feeling?" Da 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 da. And he's like, "I'm serious. I think I can go." I'm like, "Josh, a procedure, right?" And the next day he comes in, and he's carrying crutches, right? Like, I'm like, all right, let's use these, right? And just his desire to get out there. But then now, like, I made him watch a scrimmage upstairs, and he got to see it from a bird's eye view, right? Like, the game is just different up there, which I knew he would love, because you see things without being involved in it, right? And just his ability to kind of work. I know he's been working a lot with our centers that are working this week, right? In the last 5-6 days, the value he's given to TJ, he's always been there, but Brendan Henderson and Kevin Wigginton at center, right? Those things are really valuable.
Did you want him to have the bird's eye view, or did you need to keep him off the
A little bit of both. I knew that if I put him up there, I had a chair reserved that he could put his leg up and go. And then I thought that was the only thing that would intrigue him without getting in an argument with him, right? Like, because he says he'll go on the sidelines, right? But I knew he'd work his way down there. And plus, I said, now you can hear every call. So he sat next to B. Bell in the booth. So B. Bell could say, "Hey, here's the call." And then he could see it formulate against the defense and make all the calls without being in the moment. So that was good.
Coach, I know that you're a run the ball, stop the run kind of coach. Have you seen signs on both sides of the ball that can be a winning formula for you?
Well, we've always said, right, good teams do 3 things: run the ball, defend the run, and cover kicks, right? And so there's a huge emphasis on us all the time. But obviously last year, both offensively and defensively, it was something we didn't do every game. So I think the emphasis in that has been apparent. Even the other night when we're going through team goals, they mentioned that in their goals, getting back to being able to understand how we need to do those things. So you don't know till it's live, but I would say overall, I've been very impressed, not just our run game schematically, but I think offensive line and then the ball carriers themselves, the running backs, were a step ahead of where we were a year ago. Defensively, it's probably the hardest thing to gauge, because, even though you're going against, quality people, like in the live scrimmage situation, is the good on good and simulating what Eastern Illinois and Kansas and Central Michigan, those first 3 opponents, are going to do, is a little hard.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
You can't wear a Harvard